Well, hello, hello. This is Kaarin Zoe Lee, and you're listening to Lotus Moon Productions. Welcome to LMP Music. Whatever the music, whatever the tune, we're here to learn, discuss, and promote the independent music scene. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the next 45 minutes as Shugo Hanasaki tackles the music industry one artist at a time.
Welcome back to the independent music side of Lotus Moon Productions. It's nearing Halloween as 2020 has started to come to a close, and what a hectic year it has been. How is this time for all of you out there? The temperatures are dropping, the leaves are changing, and Thanksgiving is right around the corner for our folks in the United States. Are you excited for Halloween? Prepping for a party? I'm not the greatest Halloween fan anymore, but I do love horror movies and parties seem to be the way to go. But putting all that aside for a moment, it's great to hear that new intro on the podcast, and I have no one to thank but my guest of the hour. You guys might know her from their appearance on synth pop artist Griff's latest album, Calypso Drip FM, or her catchy DJ voice on Thursday evenings with Nightride.fm. So without further ado, let's welcome that beautiful voice to the podcast. It's none other than Kaarin Zoe Lee. How's it going today?
Well, hello. Oh, it is a crappy, rainy day in Seattle.
Well, it's great to have you on the podcast. It's absolutely phenomenal how you and I connected. I heard you on Griff's Synth Wave new album, Calypso Drip FM, that dropped, I think, 2-3 weeks ago. I heard your voice, and I was like, oh my gosh, this radio DJ, whoever she is, sounds amazing. Obviously, Kaarin Zoe Lee, how you're introduced on the album, but it sounded so cool. It sounded so fresh, and it honestly reminded me of one of my favorite games right now. To those who are unfamiliar, it's Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel, and there's a woman in the game who's named Misty, and she has a radio talk show named Aventime, and her voice is just it's very capturing. It's just very fun. It's very relaxing. And when I heard your voice, I was like, oh my gosh, that sounds just like her from the video game. Wouldn't it be cool if I connected with her and my partner and I were talking and I reached out on Twitter and here we are? Isn't that crazy?
Actually, when Griff talked about what he needed, he told me that he was thinking GTA, Grand Theft Auto, think of the DJs on their radio stations. And so I went and played a few of them. And some of them are a little more peppy than me because I have a lower voice for a female. So I went with the sort of the rolling, seductive hello. Because I can't do like the, hey, my Vice City, what's up? Like, that's just not me.
Well, it sounded really, really good, and the whole album was incredible. Like, so tell me about working with Griff. How did that come to be?
I got a random message from him. It's funny because he's been doing, I think since 2014, he's been doing synthwave, and I caught one of his earlier tracks, Nightride, and I knew his name. He'd been around the scene. He wasn't one of the people I talked to. He sent me a message on the Discord because I think he found me through the Nightride Discord, and he said that he was looking for a voice actor, a female, to do a mock radio intro, and that he was just about ready to just jump on Fiverr and find a professional, and somebody pointed him in my direction. And I said, well, I work for free for the Synth Fam, first of all, because you get what you pay for. I'm not trained. I don't have the coaching. I don't have the full voice acting studio. I mean, there are trappings that go into doing it as a career. You want the training, and you want to drop some coin on good equipment. And, my good equipment is a Blue Yeti condenser mic. That's it. And a pop screen. I don't have the acoustics around it. It's just, I let Griff do all the finalizing. The people that ask me for voice jobs have experience, editing and mastering vocal clips. So they do the finalization. I think professionals would do all of that for you as a package deal. But like I said, I work for free for the Synth Fam. So if any Synth Fams listening, come at me.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I want to thank you just once again. I mean, I could thank you through this entire podcast, but that wouldn't be much of a podcast now, would it?
I think if you had a pro do it, you could hear the difference. I mean, I do a good enough job, I think. If you are to hire a professional at, what they're worth, it would sound amazing. I mean, they blow me out of the water. I mean, I was thinking about going on Fiverr and doing that too, but man, I don't know about that. I'm not ready for that. I think I need to polish it up a bit.
Well, I think when it comes to some things in the professional field, I think it's kind of like beauty is in the eye of the beholder, because from my perspective, I think it sounds quite professional. Like, whether, I mean, you can consider yourself a radio mock DJ kind of host on albums now. I don't even know what that would be called, but a voiceover, a voice actor, because I think you knocked it out of the park on Griff's album and with the introduction that you did for my podcast. And have you lent your voice to anybody else?
Yeah, okay, Michael Weber, he's a local business wave, which is a subgenre of synth wave that sort of reminiscent of Office Spaces, Office instructional videos, that kind of thing. I had to do a couple voices for him. Actually, one I just did last week. All it was, "Good morning, Mr. Weber. You have a call holding on line 3." And to be honest, the shorter the clip, the weirder it is for me, the more awkward it sounds coming back to me, and the harder it is for me to repeat, and it still sounds like language to me. After a while, it just sounds like alien sounds, and I have to regroup and break it down again. He has another release coming out. God, I don't know what I'm allowed to tell. Well, you know what? He posted this publicly. It was a clip of an intro to a song, and it was my voice saying, what was it? Oh, the last Metroid has fallen. The galaxy is at peace. Yeah, he's got a VGM album coming out.
Yeah, see, and that's exactly the professionalism that I'm talking about. See, like, professionalism is in the eye of the beholder, because you're out there and you're connecting to multiple people. People want to hear this voice on whatever track or whatever podcast they're doing. So you got to give yourself a friendly pat on the back, because people want to hear that voice, and it's pretty damn cool how you get it going.
I don't even remember how it started. My first gig in the synth fam was for an artist called Kiyomono. He's in Poland. It was a song called Radicalm, and that was the longest one I've done, and it was, I think, 30 seconds. And when I listen back to it, I can still hear myself tripping over my words, and it's in the song. And I don't know if anybody else notices, but it bugs me. I wish I had done another take, because I didn't hear it. I'd done a few takes and I sent it off to him, and then after I heard it back,
I don't think anybody else noticed it.
I don't know. It was a Ghost in the Shell type of thing. He put all kinds of effects and echo and reverb, and it sounded cool when he was done with it.
With other people using your voice too, how does it feel, like, to hear your voice back? Like, you put on Calypso Drip FM for an afternoon, like on a Friday evening, going into the sunset, just how it sounds. And it's like you're talking to yourself sometimes. Or even if you, decide to listen to any of my feature podcasts, you'll hear your voice, or you'll listen to that track from the artist in Poland and you'll hear your voice all the time. So, like, how does it feel? Like, or what if you're like sitting next to a friend and you put in Calypso Drip FM, and then all of a sudden your friend's looking at you, or like, did you say something, Kaarin?
Well, if I'm with somebody else, I'll warn them. Or brag, like, "Hey, I'm on this album," and just hit play. But when I'm by myself, it's a little weird. But like on Griff's album especially, I hear it. It doesn't sound like me to me. It sounds a little higher pitched. Like it's my fake radio voice. It's a little bit higher pitched. It's not really me. I don't know. When I was younger, people used to think I was a boy on the phone, and then that's kind of when I started trying to sound more feminine, and I think I overdid it, and now I'm here.
It's funny, because the opposite. Everybody thought I was a woman when I was a child. That's really, really funny. Did you learn anything with Griff when you were working with him?
All he asked for was, he sent me paragraphs of what he wanted me to say. I feel like I learned that sometimes I don't need to stick to a very strict script. because that the very beginning, the hello, hello, well, that was unscripted. It was just meant to be hello. And every time I said hello, just hello, sounded awkward on its own. That's how I got to doubling it up, and then it just sort of stuck with me. Um, so yeah, when I was working with Griff, that segment was long enough that I realized that I just needed to roll with it. The kimono clip was a direct quote, so there was no messing with that. But with Griff, I had to kind of figure out how to work the words so that it matched the feel.
I'm starting to learn from creating my own podcast that too much of a script is a bad thing, and like even that sometimes just the natural stuff that comes off, like you can have bullet points, but if you just put it into your own words, you sound more like yourself, and then the audience seems to appreciate that more.
I agree wholeheartedly. You know, I scripted like the first 30 episodes of mine on Nightride FM, and it took so much more time to prepare it that way too. And eventually, one day I was like, it's just, I'm saying the same thing. It's artist, song title. I play the song, I do the song title, and then artist. And then I do it for the next song. I don't need to keep writing it down. And if I remember, sometimes I'll, like you said, bullet points for things I need to mention, release dates, collaborations, label credits, whatever I need to mention. I'll write it down on notes now. But back when I had it scripted, I think it was pretty obvious. When I listened back to my archives, I sounded very, I don't want to say rehearsed, more like unrehearsed, unrehearsed in reading. So I don't do that anymore.
Coming up with an entire script is a lot of work too in itself, and when you're your own creator, you have to do your best at coming up with whatever you can, because nobody is expected to come on here and just remember an entire script off the top of their head. But at the same time, people can get like stage fright, right? And they don't know what to say next. So that's what those notes are there to help with, or in case you forget where you're going with that point, and then or you could draw it back so your audience isn't all over the place. But whether it's a script or whether it's bullet points, it just keeps everything organized. And I think regardless of who you are as a podcaster, I think every podcaster just has their own rules and ways as how they do it. Sometimes full-on scripts work, and sometimes bullet points work, and some people just turn on the mic and say whatever comes out.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we at Nightride have very different ways of doing things. You know, I used to script, and now I won't. I know the State of Synth uses just bullet points. You know, they're two hosts. No one's going to write a script for two people, and you know their personalities work with it just fine. We have a chiptune night the last Sunday of every month, hosted by Dan Butler of Techno Mage, and he's not a radio DJ. He's a musician, and he appreciates chiptune and the other artists in his scene, and what he wants to do is get them heard. So that's the whole reason he has a show, is for them. Kind of like me, but I've done the public speaking thing for a while, and I think Dan scripts his shows. So he includes all the relevant information that he wants the synthwave scene to have about the chiptune scene. So his is very informative. So I think he might have to stick to scripting.
And speaking of Nightride FM too, I wanted to dive into that with you as well. Can you tell us about Nightride FM to anybody who's unaware of what Nightride FM is and what you do there?
Nightride FM is a synthwave internet radio station. Nightride.fm is the link, and the triangle in the logo is the play button. Oh, and there's a slider on the Nightride FM logo that is it's just a lot of really cute design stuff that they added. This guy named Z in Tasmania. I'm not entirely clear about the origins of Nightride FM because it predates me by years. There's the Rec Network, REKT, which is a lot of like dark EDM. We also have Cyberpunk, and the Nightride FM is the station on the Rec Network that is just synthwave. And I came into it about a year ago when I was a fan of the State of Synth show, Dennis G and Neon Fox, because theirs is kind of like a news show, not like mine. Mine's just music. And they were looking for more broadcasters last summer, and I'd only known him a couple months, but I told him, like, I have this background in theater, in stand-up comedy. I'm come from public speaking, and I'm clearly on this mission to get more of our independent artists heard, and that's what motivated me. Beyond my show, there are other DJs that will get on there just to spin music. We have a submit form for synthwave artists, just to go to submit.nightride.fm, and everyone puts their music on there, and then that becomes the 24/7 stream. You can go to Nightride FM anytime. If there are no DJs, the 24/7 stream is going. It's just sort of randomized, I think.
It's a great website. I absolutely love the interface. Who designed it?
I believe that was Z, the original owner of Nightride FM. I don't know exactly who does what, but there are others on there, Icarus and Straplocked. They're artists as well as DJs, as well as Discord mods. I mean, there's a team there that's been doing it all for a while. And it's kept up by a Patreon account and volunteer DJs like me.
Well, it's absolutely amazing. Like when you showed me this website, I was thinking, where has this website been all my life? Like, I'm just getting into synthwave, I'm just getting into the synth fam, learning all about it from you, and then I find this Nightride FM website, and the interface is so cool. It's like Fallout meets synthwave, but in the greatest of ways, and I just love it. There's so much that you can do there. I mean, and speaking of Nightride FM, I know recently you interviewed Tyler Lyle and Lau on Nightride FM. From a fan perspective, I imagine that was pretty radical. But from a professional standpoint, I imagine you learned quite a lot from that opportunity.
Yeah, I did. Interviewing Lau was a long time coming because she's the founder of Aztec Records, and I had been just crazy about so many releases from that label, all the different artists, and they started signing artists that I had loved and had been hoping that they'd find a label as their home. Interviewing Tyler was a delight, just because he is Tyler Lyle. I feel like there's a lot of interest in him and in the Midnight, though, that we all kind of know the Midnight story, and having him on Nightride FM twice in the same 2 weeks, that was amazing, because I just had Tyler, and Dennis and Julian got Tim and Tyler. So.
Both interviews were great, and listening to Tyler is very different than Tim. It's really interesting the dynamic that the two of them have, because one creates the music, and then one was or is still a country singer. So when you blend those two together and they come up with this radical, retro, just full-on unique music, and they just debuted Horror Show, which was played on Nightride FM, and the interview with State of Synth with the Midnight was fantastic. It's interesting what perspective an artist can give off when it can be the furthest thing from the truth, because some people I've talked to some artists. I mean, I've had the honor of talking to a few artists over the years, and some of them are like, no, that's not how I came off at all. Or that's not, I mean, I'm not smart, or I'm not I'm not a genius or anything. It's like, how did I get this perspective of myself out there? And fans are like, oh, well, you have to be this person from the video that you shared. All the perspectives that artists give off. And it's like, this is their character, not even their character. It's like their persona on stage, right? It's like even you and me when we were talking about the radio dynamic and how it's like that mock radio voice, and it's starting to sound like alien gibberish or talk. It's like at some point, you're yourself outside of the podcast community and outside the radio community, and then when you're singing or you're performing or you're podcasting, you're just like this performer almost.
Well, I think I let a little more of my true personality in through my radio personality on Nightride. Probably more than I should. I don't know. I tell jokes, and sometimes they're not good jokes. I laugh at myself anyway, because I'm talking to myself. I just came out of the comedy scene where I had an audience, and now I have nobody to boo me or give me dead silence, because it's just me on the radio. I'm not trying to be any certain way, and I don't think, from my perspective, I haven't left my house to do any of this stuff, so I haven't had to step outside and put on a different personality. I think I've more had to tighten up being so loose about it on the radio, to be honest. It's different when you actually step on a stage, I think.
I did want to mention your comedy career and ask you some things about it, but before we get into that, the term synth wave, or synth fam, I should say, has been tossed around in this podcast now for the past 20 minutes, and I wanted to address that to the viewers, or to the audience members, just a little bit. And what does synth fam mean to everybody? Because when I first started speaking to you, you told me about synth fam, and I was like, synth fam? What is synth fam? So what is synth fam to all of those people who are new to the podcast, who are new to Nightride FM, who are new to synth, or the state of synth? What is this term synth fam that keeps being tossed around?
I had to ask too, because when I first came on the scene and I saw it tossed around, I thought it was just about the artists, but it's not just the artists. It's also their dedicated fans. Anybody who wants to be a part of the scene. You don't have to do anything. You just got to be there and love synthwave. And I guess they recognize you as synth fam if you participate, socially, social media, go out to the shows. They'll start to know your face.
That sounds so cool though. Like this some sort of small little community online. I mean, synthwave has been getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Like with more and more artists adapting sounds from the 80s, computers, video games, and even space. It seems synthwave is taking the music industry by storm in the modern era. What about it continues to keep you interested?
I love music, and I always have. Synthwave is a genre that, for me, it hits something deep in my subconscious. I mean, I was born in 1985, and I don't know the psychology of music. I never studied that, and I don't know the psychological effects of nostalgia, or maybe that is the psychological effect, but emotional effects. I don't really know why it struck me so, but within the scene, you find so many subgenres. Like, I like a good pop song. I like a good singer, but I also like the instrumental, the cinematic. That's all there. I like the experimental, and that's there too. But it's all centered around this. It's like it's like having a Winamp skin on your life, and it's neon and chrome, and you can put whatever you want in it. I don't know.
This is beautiful. I don't even care. That's the best, right? That's the best term I have to use. The best word I have for that, because that had to be an incredible explanation. Especially it hits in the subconscious. That it's so true for me too. That's what it is. Just like what you were saying. You love a good 80s pop song. You love a good singer, but you love a good instrumental. You love the cinematics of it. That's exactly how I feel when I first heard it. And being born in 89, you're 85, so you have a few years behind me, and my partner is 87. But I swear to God, like, if I were born in the 80s, or like being an 80s kid, let's say I was 10 and 15 in the 80s, I think when it comes to music, that would have been my era. And the fact that this music is now having a resurgence in the modern era, which with other artists now, with modern artists, major artist companies picking up it, like David Guetta and The Weeknd and Kylie Minogue. Well, Kylie Minogue kind of came from that era, but you know what I mean. She's coming out with a new kind of synthwave style, and Miley Cyrus tackled it, and some other people are releasing some things. So it's really interesting to see how far synthwave has, like, it was in the 80s kind of thing, that 80s kind of sound. Then it kind of hushed down, and then I think probably in maybe the early 2010s, maybe it had a big resurgence again.
Yeah, that was with the release of the Drive movie. I think that was 2011, actually. I'll have to double check. 2010, 2011. Kavinsky was on the soundtrack for that, and I think that was what caused the resurgence around that era, because that was about when I got swept up in it. And I tried to familiarize myself with the history, but it goes back, and it's kind of convoluted. People can't really agree on, where did it start, because I mean, it started with the 80s, but when was it synth wave? And that was a term that was kind of coined on accident. And there have been some controversial discussions about whether synthwave is dead or not. That was within the last year. I am happy to report that it seems that not very many people agree. If anything, it's flourishing. There are more labels now, more artists, and there were more events happening, but this year sort of took that down.
COVID's been awful on everyone and everything. All the artists out there that haven't been able to get out and sell merchandise and make shows and, well, make a career essentially. It's been brutal.
Yeah, and they're trying to do streaming shows, and then if you charge for a streaming show, people might not show up like they would for a live show. So everyone's trying to keep afloat, especially the musicians for whom this is their livelihood.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, just take a quick pause here before we dive into your comedy career. How has COVID affected you and your family over the past year? Just letting everybody know, if you don't mind.
Well, I don't mind staying home myself. That hasn't been a problem for me. It's my son. My son was 4. He's 5 now. They closed school in April, and he's an only child. He hasn't seen kids. So for months, he was just so bored and lonely. He had all this pent-up energy. Playing with mom and dad was just getting old for him. And I think, it takes a toll on everybody that you can't go out and live a normal life. But gosh, it's the worst watching it, affect your child, to be honest.
Yeah, like you and I touched on this a couple of weeks ago when we were having a chat on Skype, and I couldn't imagine from a kid's perspective, because at least when you're an adult, you can have some sort of grasp on what's going on in your world. But when you're a kid, especially 4 or 5 years old, you're like, what the heck is happening around me? I don't understand. I'm being told not to do these things, but all of a sudden, why? Why is everybody doing this? Why is everybody doing that? How come everybody's super protective now? And then half the time you're still just thinking like a kid. So it's I can't imagine how terrifying it would be from a kid's perspective right now.
Yeah, he understands germs, and that's what we've been able to explain to him, because we've needed him to wash his hands more often and be careful and wear a mask. And he's back in school now. It's a classroom of 6 kids, and they stay away from each other, and they use hand sanitizer throughout the day. And it's just one teacher, and the same custodian is allowed to service the room every day. Nobody else is allowed in there. So I was happy with the precautions. He's doing a lot better emotionally and mentally. And I'm hoping that this is enough to get him ready for kindergarten next year.
I'm hoping for you as well. I mean, just imagine yourself being a kid again, in like any time, and just imagine being in your desk or at your desk in your classroom, having this like plastic thing around you, and then not being able to hang out with your friends like you used to. That would just be the craziest thing as a child.
Well, I was a child that came from the era of chicken pox parties.
Oh,
They didn't have a vaccine until 1992, and that was the year I got chicken pox. It was that summer. And yeah, the vaccine wasn't really available yet, and I got chicken pox from another kid at summer camp, and I was 7, and it was no big deal. But I guess it's a big deal now, so we've had to rethink how to deal with these things. So you get a chicken pox vaccine now. You don't put your kids with the infected kids.
Fun fact about that: I had chickenpox twice.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't think that was possible.
Yeah, a lot of people don't think it's possible, but it is just a myth. You can get it twice. It happened to me when I was a kid. It was not the biggest the first time, and then it went away, and then a few months later it came back full force. So yeah, I had it twice.
Oh, goodness, I'm sorry. I was more miserable when I had like stomach bug or something, even though it lasted like 2 weeks or however long. I think it was out of summer camp for a week. I don't remember it being that bad for me, but I never got it again.
The only scars or mental scars, and I use this term loosely because I don't actually have any, is the scratching. That's all I remember. from as a kid. Scratch, scratch, scratch.
I've got a right in between my eyebrows. I got a chickenpox scar where I just couldn't help it. It's still there to
Ah,
this day.
those are 30 years later talking about the pandemic and chickenpox on Lotus Moon Productions. We're having a fun time.
This is life. This is reality.
That it is. But you know what? We got to get some jokes and laughter going on here. So we'll segue right into your comedy career. So you were you had a comedy career starting up before Nightride came into the picture, correct?
I wouldn't call it a career, Shugo.
I mean, it
it was
sounded good from what you showed me.
I didn't put that video up. It was the graduation school. They put the videos up. I don't think I have anything publicly available. Just because I don't know. 9 out of 10 jokes of mine were not that great, and I also didn't have the same kind of support like I do in Synth Fam. And even though comedy wasn't really about being accepted or anything, it helped to have constructive feedback, you know. And I don't. The scene just has a little too much toxicity in it. Generally, there's some great people, some people I'm still friends with, and probably always will be. And I will probably return to comedy selectively. But if I were to work on it again, it would be one of my isolated hobbies, not like synthwave.
Well, I'm very thankful for you sharing that few-minute clip because that was a really funny clip. My partner and I both laughed at that, and we quite enjoyed it.
I think I'm going to collect the gems from all my bad sets and just make one brand new 5 minute, 3 to 5 minute, just get back out there.
It works.
There's
It'll
some
be good.
good spaces. There are good spaces in comedy, and there are bad spaces in comedy, and I think that's what I had a hard time learning when I started out was who's giving you constructive criticism and who just wants to see you gone.
Well, I would take away the skill, the fact that you had a lot of heavy criticism in that industry, but it helped you in the long run. It built you up, I think, and it taught you a thing or two.
I think so. I didn't deal with stage fright quite the same as most people. It wasn't like I minded being in front of people because I don't know. When it comes to being the center of attention, I'm never trying to be there. And if I insist on it, like if I get on stage and I'm saying, "Look at me," I have the pressure on myself to be like, "Well, their time and attention is valuable, and you better make it worth it." And that's the pressure that's on me, and I think that's why I end up caving when I'm delivering a joke that on the spot. That's when I realize it's not that good. And then it just sort of falls weakly out of my mouth. And I'm like, I need to go back and watch my sets and catch that stuff. But I don't know. I think I never got any better over the 2 years that I was doing it. And I don't know why. I eventually quit comedy last March when I was running into some health problems. I had to cancel some unpaid gigs, and I offered to find replacements in my stead if it was necessary. But I think I still left a bad taste in a lot of bookers' mouths just because I was so flaky. And so I just took the time off to recover, and I never ended up coming back. I found synthwave, and I found these people. And also, an unintended side effect of finding the synth fam is that they do build you up, whether you ask them to or not, whatever it is you're doing. I was thinking that was just, for the musicians. So it's not. It's about everything. I know if I told them I was ready to do comedy again, they'd turn out. These days, I'm like thinking of all kinds of jokes that nobody but the synth fam would understand, and I can't take to comedy clubs with that material. So I don't know what I'm gonna do next. Comedy just for the synth fam? I don't know.
That's not a bad idea. I mean, there's thousands of us, and I mean, you making us laugh on a side note, maybe a new State of Sound or Nightride FM episode. Who knows what could come from it?
Humor is different all over the world. I might not be able to reach everybody.
Well, With comedy in life, that is a risk that everyone has to take. We got about 5-10 minutes left of the podcast, and I thought we could play a little game for your audience members to learn a thing or two about you. What do you think?
Let's do it.
All right, it's time to play LMP's newly added This or That. Have you ever played the game before?
I'm assuming I'm choosing between two things.
You certainly are. Yep. So, for example, isn't that simple? For example, if I asked you tea or coffee, what do you prefer?
Oh, green tea.
Green tea. Green tea is delicious. All right, so I have some listed up here, and we'll go back and forth through them, and we'll see what type of person Kaarin Zoe Lee truly is. All right, are you a morning or a night person?
Night.
In the shower, is it a bar of soap or a shower gel?
Shower gel.
Shower gel, me too. Video games or reading?
Video games.
Any favorite video games?
Oh, goodness. I haven't been able to play them in so long. I mean, had a kid. I don't do anything anymore. But goodness, I do love the Zelda series, and I'm familiar with Final Fantasy up to about 7. I'd say those are my favorites.
All right, cool. Movies or TV shows?
TV shows. The music in movies is so much better, though. I just don't like sitting through them that long.
I used to be a movie guy when I was younger, but now I'm all TV shows. Like I find it very difficult to watch a movie now.
Yeah, I think collectively society's attention span is shortening.
Yeah, the second you catch up on one thing, you've missed like 5 others.
Mm-hmm.
Sticking to the movies and TV shows, are you having popcorn or chips?
You know what? I really like Canadian ketchup chips, the Lay's, and they won't sell them down here. And you know what really irks me is that I also liked the dill pickle ones, and we got dill pickle in the States, but we still don't have ketchup Lay's. And if I want to order them, I have to order them online and have them sent to me and have them arrive all flat and confetti, little ketchup chip confetti in a bag because it got pressurized and crushed.
I am so happy that I met you when you said ketchup Lay's chips.
Help me.
You can get as many flavors of ketchup chips for me as you want. I will send them down to you.
I need like a dash button for that kind of thing. Amazon Canada dash.
I already have Christmas plans to send a big box of blue corn chips to my friend Bentley Jones over in the United Kingdom. So I'm going to have to send you a box of ketchup chips, aren't I?
Are they going to survive it, though? Long time ago, I ordered 2 bags, and they were pretty broken. I mean, they taste the same, but geez, somebody like kicked that box down the steps or something.
Well, to anybody out there who has never tried ketchup chips and is like, is it like dipping a plain chip in ketchup? No, it's not. It's absolutely delicious. A lot of people give them a hard time, but ketchup chips, they're a Canadian favorite.
I'm not even Canadian. I don't even eat ketchup. Well, I don't like ketchup. That's irrelevant. It has nothing to do with it. Like it's cooked in,
Wow. I love how this has just turned into a ketchup chip conversation. This is beautiful.
It's been years, Hugo. It's been years since I've had proper ketchup Lay's.
We will get them to you. We will totally get them to you.
There are some places in the northern part of my state, Washington State, where I think you can find some off-brand ketchup chips, but that's about as good as it gets here. No.
Yeah, the off-brand just doesn't do it. It's got to be Lay's.
Gotta be Lay's.
Gotta be Lay's. We got a few more questions. How about the city life or the country life?
City. I don't know anything about country life.
Telekinesis or unimaginable strength?
Telekinesis. It is unimaginable strength.
Exactly. I wouldn't have to get up. Oh, that would be funny. Now, for all the video gamers out there, is it a Sony, a Switch, or an Xbox?
I want one of each, and I don't. I have a PS4, and we have DSs. That's all we have in our household. I wanted a Switch, but I don't think that was fair because I really only wanted it to see the new Link's Awakening. I'll go with Switch.
Switch it is. All right. Yeah, that was a bonus question because it wasn't this or that. It was this, and that. That was a 3-1. All right. Thank you so much for that, Zoe. It seems we've learned a lot about you today.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
What can we expect from Kaarin Zoe Lee moving forward? What shows do you plan to have next? Is there anyone you plan to interview?
I do. I've been carrying around this title with Retro Synth for a long time, but this year just kind of threw it all out the window. I've got my November is there are going to be a couple of Retro Synth focused interviews. We have Neutron Dreams coming. He's going to talk about the label. The duo is going to talk about their music, and they got some new people signed onto the label, so that'll be fun. At the end of, October 29th, I don't know when this is going to air, but that's probably going to be my biggest show this year because I'm doing a double Halloween feature, 6 p.m. in UK for about an hour, and then 6 p.m. on the Pacific Coast for however long till I run out of submissions. So that'll be fun.
Well, thank you so much for that. And before we end things, for all the synth lovers out there who just can't get enough music, do you have any shouts or suggestions for other artists that you're currently listening to?
Ooh, that's that's why I have people tune into my show, because you'll find out then. But big shout out to Nightride FM simply for having me, but also for the shows too, for the State of Synth. They're the ones that really stay on top of the news, the new releases, the new artist interviews. They're on top of everything. I do know that, I have another interview coming up later this year. Elevate the Sky has just started talking about his upcoming album. Goodness. I know Power Rob's doing some things with Aztec Records, and so many people are coming out with brand new Halloween songs.
All right. And with that, we'll wrap things up. Thank you so much for sitting down with me and chatting about your career. It was an absolute pleasure speaking to you.
Likewise, Shugo. Thank you so much for having me. This has been fun. I'm a little awkward, but this is fun.
Yeah, I love the fact that I get to sit down and talk to really anybody in the music industry, like radio DJs, independent music artists, synth fam, anybody. I'd love to help with the community. Before I pimp out the old social media, why don't you shout out your socials and let everyone know where they can find you?
Well, I can be found on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Kaarin Zoe Lee, everything straight across, KAARIN ZOELEE. If you have synthwave submissions for Nightride FM, submit.nightride.fm. If you want them on my show, Kaarin@nightride.fm. It's got to be an MP3. And yeah, let me know who you are, and we'll get you heard. Love you guys.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Kaarin Zoe Lee. And you can find all of our socials at SoundCloud under Lotus Moon Productions, Facebook under Lotus Moon Productions, Instagram under Lotus M Productions, Twitter under Lotus Moon Prod, and you can search us on YouTube under Lotus Moon Productions. Be sure to get that subscriber count to 100 so we can have an official URL. With that, this has been LMP Music. Please be kind to one another, be safe, and with that, we are signing off.